Hi, welcome back to Storytime with Jeni Presents. Today's topic, as you can tell by the title, is not going to be one of the regular fun go lucky stories because, cancer. But I feel like it is something that I do need to discuss because it absolutely does explain a lot of who I am as a person and my outlook on life. I do want to start with saying that I have a genetic disorder that increases my chances of getting all of the cancers. It's a little scary when you are first told about that. It's called Lynch syndrome, Lynch. It's named after the doctor that discovered it. And the thing that it is most commonly associated with is colon cancer. It is something that I received from my mother's side of the family, who has had colon cancer, and her father has had colon cancer, and his father has had colon cancer. I have not. Yay! But instead, I'm going to be talking about the 4 different cancers that I have had. The good news is that I did survive all of them. See, I'm alive. The bad news is that it is not a matter of if I get cancer again, I'm absolutely going to be getting cancer again. It is just a matter of what kind it is. It's like the really crappiest roulette you'll ever encounter. And I do want to give a warning that there might be parts where I take a drag because it's not a fun topic to talk about. So I want to start with explaining the first cancer that I received. I don't even know how to explain that, was skin cancer. And the mole that was on my arm right here, this was the scar to remove it, doubled in size every year starting in my teens. And I didn't know that at the time that skin cancer could be fatal. Also, by the way, skin cancer can be fatal. And I used to actually joke around that it was my cancerous mole because it was growing. I mean, obviously there was something wrong with it. And I was in my mid-20s when I went to go and see a new doctor who we were meeting each other up for the first time. We went to shake hands and I was wearing a short sleeve shirt and my sleeve came up high enough and she saw my mole and she wouldn't talk to me about anything else. She was like, that's just terrifying. And it was huge, not gonna lie, it was awful. About the size of a 50-cent piece. And so she scheduled a emergency appointment with me with a dermatologist. And I'm not gonna lie, at that time, I wasn't really all that concerned. It was 2 weeks out. It took me a little while, a couple of years, to learn that said dermatologist actually set their appointments 6 months to a year out. And the fact that I was able to get in 2 weeks actually does show really how bad it was. So when I saw him, he's like, there's no way it's not cancerous. Let's go ahead and schedule the surgery now. I'm going to do what was called a core biopsy to see how deep it goes so we know how far to cut to get clean edges. And that's the key word in happiness with all of the cancers are clean edges. And that just means that when they send the results to the lab, all of the edges around the entire bit that's removed is completely cancer free, which means that they've gotten all of the cancer. And as you can tell by this gnarly scar here, they actually ended up taking, it was 2 inches across, about 4 inches down, and 1 inch deep of skin. My arm bowed in because so much was removed for about 6 months after the surgery. And it does look like, a butcher took to me. But that's just because there was so much removed that they were just trying to get it to connect wherever it could. And then they also did lymph nodes, which was 1 incision underneath my arm and that part actually took longer to heal, which was weird. But it was because it was so deep. So they let me know that I would get the results back in about 1 to 2 weeks after the surgery was completed. And I was asking the doctor, for information. Thank you, Dr. Wilbers. Best dermatologist I ever had, because he was totally and completely honest with me. And he was like, well, if it's in your lymph nodes, we make the last part of your life as bearable and copable as possible, because that meant I absolutely would be dying soon. Because apparently malignant melanoma just loves organs. So once it gets into your lymph nodes, it just goes all over your body and starts to just yum, yum, yum on everything. But again, I survived. That cancer completely changed my outlook on life. I had been very depressed. I suffer still from depression. But I now, and ever since then, when you are that close to death, you really start to appreciate life. And I do try to find the silver lining in absolutely everything that I can. I also really feel like I need to live as hard as I can, because, yeah, I could be dead tomorrow. And I feel like having it that young was helpful in shifting my mental state. Sorry. But it's better than you guys having to see snot, because that would be gross. But having my mental state shifted to where, life is short and you really don't know how short it's going to be. So the second cancer that I got was not of the fatal kind. Yay! It was basal cell carcinoma. And I don't know if you've noticed the scar. It makes it look like I have a double chin, but it was right here. And the fun thing about that is that you're conscious when they take it. And the most disturbing part was honestly when they were cauterizing it after they had, removed a portion of my chin, and smelling my own skin cooking was discerning. And it was weird. I'm not gonna lie. Like that was a very strange procedure to have done. And it was, I don't recommend it. Unfortunately, that did not do the trick with that one. I had, as my doctor explained it, he thought it was a rock, but instead it was actually more like a jellyfish with a bunch of different tendrils coming out. And so I had to get a MOSH surgery, MOSH surgery. And it was very similar. I'm conscious. And they remove it, and they have a lab in-house. And they then pack. They don't seal it shut. They pack it off, and they send you out into the waiting room. And they then wait for the results on the lab to see if the edges pop clean. And what the point is that they'll just keep putting you back into the chair and removing more and more until they get clean edges. Thankfully, they got clean edges on the first go for me. Yay! Which meant that when I got pulled back into the room for the second time, they cauterized and then sewed up here. And so I have this weird little dent. I'll give you a little view of it. This weird little dent that happens all of the time on the underside of my chin. But I mean, it's better than cancer. But again, basal cell carcinoma is not fatal, but it doesn't stop growing. And when I asked him what would, my doctor, what would it be if I didn't get it removed? He's like, there are people that have come in and like the entire part of their face is covered in it. And so he recommended having it taken care of when it was still small, and it would be a much smaller part removed, especially with the location that it was at, because they would only be able to go so deep. And if I let it go too long, then they wouldn't be able to remove all of it. So I went ahead and got that one done. And I went to my appointments like you're supposed to with the dermatologist. They're awkward and awful. And it's a head to toe full body exam where they document the shape, size, and color of every blemish on my body. Yay. That way they can keep track of if anything's growing, if anything seems out of sorts, if it looks different, or if there's something that's of concern. They know what to look for. There's pictures. There's it's a very thick file. It's weird. And I also do self-checks. I know where all of my moles are. Like that, this one on my chin, thank goodness, hasn't changed. I have had moles taken from a lot of different locations. I have had one that was taken from my cheek. I've had one that was taken from my upper inner thigh. Don't recommend. That hurt. I've had one on my elbow, and it looks almost like someone put a cigarette out on me, but they didn't. That was just a biopsy, and those were the ones that all came back clean. I only had those two that came back not clean. But because of the basal cell carcinoma at 38 and the basal cell carcinoma coming back at 38, my dermatologist felt that was very unusual. It was awfully young for someone that I've only had one real sunburn in my life. 12 years old. It was awful. Like, there was blisters and everything, but normally I had tanned. Not like I'm gonna go lay out tanned, but like, lived on a farm. You know, you have to do farm work. You're outside. And when I'm out in the sun, I tan. And with my malignant melanoma, I stopped going out into the sun without sunblock. I have an SPF 100 that I use, and I use SPF clothing as well. There are some really great SPF, almost like hoodies, that I use for when I go horseback riding. And if I'm going to be out in the sun at all, I have an SPF hat. I have an SPF umbrella. I've got it all. And that is why I'm so pale, is being in the sun is bad. The sun is evil, and the sun will kill you, or it will try its darndest. So because of that, and the age in which I was developing these, and the fact that I wasn't in the sun, and my dermatologist knew that because he could tell twice a year seeing me, and the basal cell carcinoma, and so he was concerned that I might have some kind of genetic disorder. So he was able to spin off to get genetic testing done. And that was when it was discovered that I had Lynch. That was in 2016. 2016 sucked, I'm not gonna lie. Basal cell carcinoma in February, and then I had my Mosh surgery in May, and I was able to get the genetic testing done in September, and they got the results back in October. And I know this so well because once they discovered the Lynch syndrome, the very first thing that they wanted to do was a full hysterectomy and a full double mastectomy. So here's some fun news that I didn't know before this. There are very few tests for female reproductive organs and cancer. The pap smear that we have to go through once a year only tests for cervical cancer, and very specifically on the outside, obviously. They don't have tests for anything else. The ovarian test, the ovarian cancer test is terrifying, and I'm not going to go into detail on that on YouTube. But it's done, and it involves them pushing on your stomach to see if they can feel your ovaries and if they can feel anything off about them. There are no tests for endometrial cancer. There's no tests for uterine cancer. There's no test for any of those. So they wanted to do the full hysterectomy. And then breast cancer is the number 2 cancer that Lynch syndrome has caused. So they wanted to do a preventive double mastectomy. Now, I can tell you one, that was very difficult to deal with mentally. It felt like at the time that they were saying that they were going to take away everything that made me a female. And I know that's not the case, but it was still very difficult. I did get the full hysterectomy, and I was scheduling the double mastectomy. The full hysterectomy was done on October 16th of 2016. And in December, I had doctors trying to schedule the double mastectomy. But the reconstruction surgery, the surgeon for that was like, you're being awful monsters. There is no reason for her to have a double mastectomy, especially one this soon when she's not even recovered from her hysterectomy. And so he refused to do it at that time. And I'm kind of glad, because that would have been very hard to deal with, like physically, to try to cope with, on top of trying to heal from the hysterectomy. So with the hysterectomy, of course, they take all of your organs and they ship them off and they do biopsies on them. And that was when I found that that hysterectomy that was preventive indeed saved my life. If I had put it off even for a month, I would be dead. They found endometrial cancer and cervical cancer. Yay. So the good news is it is Jeni 4, cancer 0. Yay. But we'll see what the next battle is going to be as far as that goes. And I don't know. I may tell you, I may not. Probably not. It's easier to deal with things by pretending like they don't happen. Like, I didn't talk about cancer when it was happening to any of my coworkers. And the only reason I let my boss know is he needed to be aware so I could be out for the doctor's appointments. It's easier to not have everybody going, how are you? Are you okay? Is everything okay? I'm so worried about you all of the time. It actually makes it really hard to focus on anything else. And to answer a question that I actually do get asked a lot is, how do you deal with it? You know, how do you handle this? 4 cancers is terrifying. Knowing you're going to get it again is pretty awful. And my answer is, I have no choice. It's as simple as that. I have to survive, so I go to work every single day. I have to have my insurance because I live in America. And I don't have a choice but to get up and deal with it, because what else am I going to do? I've beaten it 4 times. What would be the point of going through all of that crap if I just let it get me down to the point where that was all I ever thought about? So instead, I live life to the fullest that I can. I try to find the silver lining as much as absolutely possible, even in the most horrific of cases. And then the most important part is I have the darkest, most twisted sense of humor ever. I joke around about cancer because laugh or cry, I would rather laugh any day of the week. I would rather laugh, because who wants to do this? No one. I know I don't. So I joke around about it. My sister got me hang on, I'll show you. She got me a set of cards. My business cards are my cancer cards. That way anyone, in any time that I needed to play the cancer card, they're just plain on back. But anytime I needed to play the cancer card, I could. I always keep a couple in my wallet because, well, I mean, can't play the cancer card without just tossing a card out at somebody, right? And I have to say, I went with her when we went to go and pick them up. She didn't tell me about them. We went to Staples. She ordered that at Staples, guys. And she had told me that she was picking up her new business cards. And when we got there, they had her new business cards, and then they also had the pack of 250 cancer cards. And when she was picking them up, the person there was like, we really had wondered what type of person was ordering these because, well, you know. And so she then explained how I survived cancer and she felt I needed cancer cards. And honestly, I did. I just didn't know it at the time. I also share them because of so many. I share them with people that I have met that have dealt with cancer as well, because if you had to deal with cancer, I feel like you should get the cancer card. The official cancer card. It's the right thing to do. And then you have to joke around about things because otherwise, yeah. So, because I hate ending on such a sad note, I am going to end on something happy, which is you getting to see Gertie in Midnight Cuddling.